The morning that can change everything. Imagine opening your eyes tomorrow morning and realizing that your first few thoughts could determine the direction of your entire day, your mood, your choices, your energy, even your sense of purpose. Not with some grand, mystical lightning bolt from the sky, but with something incredibly simple. Just 9 lines, 9 spoken truths, whispered into the quiet of your room, and deeply heard by the most important listener, yourself. In a world overflowing with noise and distraction, the ancient teachings of Buddhism offer something radically grounding: presence. Not presence as a trend or self-help hashtag, but as a deep, lived experience that begins the moment you awaken. That's what this practice is about. You may have heard of the viral video or teaching that inspired this journey, where a monk or a teacher shares 5 morning lines that can rewire your life. But we're going to go deeper, much deeper, because the essence of this practice isn't just about repeating beautiful sentences. It's about becoming them, living them, feeling their truth vibrate in your bones. That's why in this video, we're going beyond the original 5. We're expanding to 9 affirmations, each grounded in Buddhist wisdom, yet spoken in the voice of your modern life. They are invitations, not commandments, and while they may seem simple on the surface, each one contains the distilled essence of thousands of years of spiritual exploration and mindful practice. Now, let me be clear. This isn't about manifesting a new car or a luxury villa on a beach. This is about transforming the way you meet the world each morning. This is about remembering who you are before the emails, the noise, the comparison, and the stress start rushing in. It's about shifting from survival to clarity, from autopilot to awakening. And I say this not just as a teacher of Buddhist principles, but as a fellow traveler. I've whispered these affirmations to myself during moments of heartbreak, doubt, even triumph. I've taught them to CEOs and monks, artists and exhausted single parents. And again, they return with the same message. These words brought me back to myself. So take a breath, let the noise fall away. You don't need incense or robes. All you need is the willingness to show up, to listen, to feel, and to speak. This is your invitation to awaken not just to the morning, but to the miracle of being alive. Are you ready? I am grateful for this new day. When you open your eyes and whisper, I am grateful for this new day. It may seem like a simple ritual, but in Buddhist practice, simplicity is often where the greatest truths live. This line is more than just an uplifting start. It's a deliberate call back to the present moment, the only moment that truly exists. In the teachings of the Buddha, to be awake is to be present. Gratitude is not just a warm feeling. It's the anchoring of your awareness in now. Gratitude in Buddhism is not tied to having things. It is not dependent on external success, approval, or convenience. Instead, it is a recognition of life itself, this breath, this body, this opportunity to grow. Even suffering, when viewed through the lens of awakening, becomes a teacher worthy of our gratitude. Let me share a real story. There was once a Zen abbot who lost his monastery in a great fire. All his students scattered, the scriptures were burned, and the mountain was silent. Weeks later, a young student returned, expecting to find the master broken. Instead, the abbot was sitting peacefully by the charred altar. "Why are you not devastated?" the student asked. The old man smiled and said, "What a beautiful morning. The sky is clear. I can begin again." That's the spirit of this affirmation. Gratitude is not reaction, it's creation. You create your emotional foundation for the day not by ignoring pain or pretending life is easy, but by choosing to honor your ability to begin again. Each sunrise is a small rebirth, each breath a chance to rewrite the next chapter. Neuroscience, too, has caught up to this wisdom. Studies have shown that starting your day with gratitude can literally rewire your brain's default mode network, the part that governs self-perception and emotional processing. Just 5 minutes of focused gratitude can trigger a cascade of serotonin and dopamine release, setting a positive tone for hours. But beyond the science, there's something sacred in the act of pausing, placing your hand over your heart, and saying, "Thank you." Not to anyone in particular, not for anything in particular, but simply for the sheer miracle that you woke up at all. Many people didn't, and so, this first line is your root. It doesn't matter what follows: affirmations, plans, chaos, breakthroughs. Gratitude is your ground. It keeps your heart soft, your ego humble, and your mind open. Say it out loud, even if it feels awkward at first. I am grateful for this new day. Let it echo. Let it ripple. Let it be your beginning. I embrace impermanence. Among all Buddhist teachings, none are as profound and as liberating as the truth of impermanence. Everything changes, everything fades, everything passes. But here's the paradox. When you truly embrace that nothing lasts forever, you begin to live more fully than ever before. When you say to yourself in the morning, "I embrace impermanence," you are not resigning to the chaos of life. You are not giving up or withdrawing. You are stepping into reality with courage. You are saying, "I see how fragile this moment is, and I choose to be present for it anyway." Impermanence is the silent rhythm that beats underneath every smile, every success, every sorrow. It is the reason why we must not cling to pleasure, and why we need not fear pain, because both are like clouds passing through the wide sky of awareness. Let's pause here for a story that illustrates this truth. Maya Angelou once wrote that when she was in deep sorrow, her grandmother would say, "This too shall pass." It's a phrase that has crossed cultures and centuries. But in Buddhism, this is not just a comfort, it is a practice. It's a lens through which we view life's greatest challenges and deepest joys. Think of Steve Jobs, who famously said in a Stanford commencement speech, "Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life." That is impermanence in action. When Jobs was diagnosed with cancer, he didn't retreat, he created. He refined. He focused only on what mattered. Why? Because when you hold the reality of change close to your heart, you stop wasting your life. This affirmation, I embrace impermanence, is a vow. It is saying, I will not take this day for granted. I will not assume the people I love will always be here. I will cherish. I will forgive faster. I will laugh louder. I will weep without shame. Because all of it is passing through. Impermanence is not sorrowful when you stop resisting it. In fact, it is the ultimate motivator for compassion and creativity. Because what you love now will fade. You are moved to love it more. Because your body is aging. You choose to treat it with reverence now. Because your time is limited. You use it with clarity. When the Buddha held up a flower and said nothing, only one student smiled. That student saw the lesson. Everything beautiful is temporary. And in that transience lies its deepest beauty. So when you repeat this second line each morning, I embrace impermanence, say it with openness. Say it as someone brave enough to love without needing to possess. To give without expecting return. And to live as if this breath matters more than the one before. Life is not something we hold. It's something we touch gently. Then let go. Breathe. Say it with me. I embrace impermanence. Let it shape how you treat your time today. I cultivate compassion for myself and others. There is a reason the Buddha placed such profound emphasis on compassion, karuna. It is not a luxury of the spiritual life. It is the beating heart of it. Compassion is not weakness. It is not pity. It is the courage to face suffering, your own and others, and respond with love. When you say, I cultivate compassion for myself and others, you are planting a seed that grows into patience, into kindness, into presence. Let's begin with the first part, compassion for yourself. This is often the most overlooked kind of compassion. So many of us are quick to forgive others, but brutal with ourselves. We replay mistakes, doubt our worth, punish our shortcomings. We think this is humility, but it's not. It's self-abandonment. In Buddhism, compassion starts at home. You cannot give to others what you deny yourself. Self-compassion means you speak to yourself with the same gentleness you'd offer to a child or a friend. It means understanding that you, too, are human. You, too, are allowed to stumble. A powerful story comes to mind here. The story of Nelson Mandela. Mandela spent 27 years in prison, much of it in a tiny, dark cell. When he emerged, he didn't seek revenge. Instead, he spoke of healing, of unity, of compassion. But that compassion wasn't only directed outward. He had to cultivate it within himself. To forgive himself for moments of anger, despair, even hatred. That's what makes compassion revolutionary. Now the second part. Compassion for others. This is not about liking everyone. It's about recognizing that every person, no matter how difficult, is carrying unseen burdens. When you meet rudeness with understanding, when you choose to listen instead of attack, when you hold space for someone's pain without judgment, that is compassion in action. Let me give you another example. The Dalai Lama once spoke about a Chinese soldier who had imprisoned and tortured many Tibetans. Years later, the Dalai Lama met this soldier. The man had changed. He wept and begged forgiveness. The Dalai Lama embraced him. That is compassion at its highest form, recognizing that even those who hurt us are suffering. In neuroscience, studies show that compassion changes the brain. It activates the same reward centers as pleasure or connection. It reduces inflammation, lowers blood pressure, and increases resilience. In other words, compassion is not just a moral good, it's biological wisdom. When you affirm each morning, "I cultivate compassion for myself and others," you are saying, "I choose softness in a hard world. I choose to pause before I judge. I choose to hold my own pain gently and extend that same grace to others." Here's a powerful exercise. Each morning, after you say the affirmation, place your hand on your heart. Feel your breath. Then think of one person who needs compassion today. It could be yourself. Say silently, "May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be free from suffering." This is called metta meditation, loving kindness. It is a practice that transforms you. Remember, compassion is not a mood. It is a discipline. And like any discipline, it grows with use. Repeat it now, not as a concept, but as a vow. "I cultivate compassion for myself and others." Say it again. Then carry it into your day. "I walk the path of wisdom." Wisdom in Buddhism is not just intellectual understanding. It's not about memorizing doctrines or debating ideas. True wisdom, prajna, is experiential. It arises from deep inner knowing, from seeing things as they truly are, not as we wish them to be. When you say, "I walk the path of wisdom," you're not claiming that you are wise. You're committing to the journey, to the process of becoming aware, of shedding illusions, of seeing reality clearly, with courage and compassion. Wisdom begins with insight into impermanence, anicca, suffering, dukkha, and non-self, anatta. These are not abstract ideas. They are lived truths. When a loved one dies, you experience impermanence. When you feel restless despite external success, you touch dukkha. When you meditate and watch thoughts come and go like clouds, you glimpse non-self. Wisdom is not a fixed destination, it's a lens, a way of seeing life that liberates you from reaction, from fear, from clinging. Let's ground this with a story, one that echoes through history. Think of Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher. Despite commanding armies and ruling an empire, he wrote humbly about impermanence and detachment. His wisdom didn't come from conquest, but from contemplation. He faced sickness, betrayal, the death of children, yet through it all, he remained calm and reflective. This is the essence of wisdom, not the avoidance of suffering, but the ability to meet it with clarity. In the Buddhist tradition, the path of wisdom is cultivated through three main practices: study, pariyatti, reading; listening to teachings; engaging the intellect; contemplation, patipatti, reflecting deeply; questioning assumptions; applying insight; direct experience, pativeda, through meditation and mindfulness. You begin to directly observe how your mind works, how craving arises, how peace unfolds. "I walk the path of wisdom" means you are open to learning. from your teachers, from the world, from your mistakes. It means you don't chase perfection, you pursue truth. Wisdom also gives rise to discernment, knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to act and when to wait. It's the quiet voice inside that says, "This choice is aligned with your deeper self." Let me give you a modern example. Oprah Winfrey often talks about how she listens to the whisper. That inner voice that tells her when something isn't right, even before it's obvious. That's wisdom, subtle, intuitive, cultivated through years of reflection and failure. She didn't just become powerful, she became discerning. And with that discernment came deeper influence. As you affirm, "I walk the path of wisdom," visualize yourself stepping onto a quiet trail in the forest. The trees don't shout, the earth doesn't hurry. You walk slowly, listening, observing, learning. That is the spirit of this affirmation. Here's a practice. After saying the affirmation in the morning, ask yourself one question. What would a wise person do today? Then let that question guide your actions. Even in conflict, wisdom softens the edges. Even in confusion, wisdom seeks stillness before response. The Buddha often taught through silence. When asked metaphysical questions he knew were distractions from liberation, he stayed quiet. That, too, is wisdom. So repeat it now. I walk the path of wisdom. Say it not to sound wise, but to become empty enough for wisdom to fill you. This path doesn't require brilliance, it requires sincerity. And when you walk it long enough, you realize wisdom isn't something you own, it's something you serve. I am at peace with myself. This affirmation strikes at the heart of all spiritual aspirations. I am at peace with myself isn't a claim of perfection. It's a radical acceptance, a declaration that you are no longer at war with your own being. In Buddhist practice, this peace is not passive. It is luminous, intentional, and cultivated. Inner peace, upekkha in Pali, is not about escaping the world but standing centered amidst its turbulence. It's about no longer being dragged by the winds of craving, aversion, or delusion. But let's be honest, most people are rarely at peace with themselves. We criticize our past, we fear our future, we doubt our worth. This constant inner friction corrodes our joy. That's why this affirmation is so powerful. When you speak the words, "I am at peace with myself," you're sending a message to every part of your being that says, "You're okay. You are enough, right now." Buddhism teaches that peace arises from understanding the nature of the self, and ultimately, the non-self. That the you fight with is not solid, not fixed. It's a river, flowing, changing. When you realize that, you stop clinging to identity and start embracing presence. Let's ground this with a real-world story. Think of Nelson Mandela, imprisoned for 27 years. Subjected to brutal treatment, denied dignity. Yet when he was released, he did not seek revenge, he sought reconciliation. He said, "As I walked out the door toward the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison." That is inner peace, hard won, earned through introspection, not avoidance. Peace is not just an absence of conflict, it's the presence of understanding, of compassion, of release. You don't need to meditate in the Himalayas for 40 years to find peace. You need to stop waging war with your regrets. You need to forgive yourself. Not for being perfect, but for being human. When you repeat the line, "I am at peace with myself," you are inviting every cell in your body to unclench. You are choosing to stop rehearsing past mistakes and start living from present awareness. Try this visualization. Close your eyes. Picture a still lake, no ripples, just reflection. That lake is your mind. When at peace, it reflects truth without distortion. Now imagine dropping a heavy rock of shame or resentment into it. See the ripples. Notice how long it takes to settle. Then imagine gently lifting the rock out, placing it down, and watching the surface still again. That is what letting go looks like. You might ask, how do I become truly at peace with myself? Here are 3 practices. Forgiveness meditation. Repeat, "I forgive myself for not knowing what I didn't know before I learned it." Say it again, and again, until it lands. Non-comparison. Stop measuring your journey against others. Your path is sacred, even when messy, especially when messy. Self-compassion journaling. Write a letter to yourself. Not from your critic, but from your inner elder. Your future wiser self. What would they say to the you of today? Think of the Dalai Lama. Despite being exiled from his homeland, losing his country, facing decades of political aggression, he radiates joy. Why? Because he's not carrying internal baggage. His peace isn't circumstantial, it's cultivated. He once said, "We can never obtain peace in the outer world until we make peace with ourselves." Repeat the affirmation now. I am at peace with myself. Say it slowly. Let the words echo inside. Let them become true. Not because everything is perfect, but because you've chosen acceptance over judgment. Presence over perfection. This is not resignation. It's transcendence. When you stop fighting yourself, you become available for something greater, your life, your purpose, your joy. Let this be your anchor. When the world gets loud, return here. When you feel small, return here. When you forget who you are, return here. I am at peace with myself. I trust the timing of my life. Pause for a moment. Take a breath. Now consider this question. When was the last time you wanted something so badly, but it didn't arrive when you expected? Maybe it was love. Maybe it was a career breakthrough. Maybe it was healing from grief. In that space between longing and fulfillment lives the soul-stretching virtue of trust. I trust the timing of my life is not just a comforting phrase, it's a radical spiritual practice. It means learning to surrender the illusion of control and surrender to divine flow. In Buddhism, time is not linear, it is cyclical, expansive, and deeply interconnected with karma and causality. When we speak of trusting timing, we are really speaking of trusting the Dharma, trusting that what ripens will ripen when the conditions are right, and not a moment before. Let me share a personal example. There was a man I once knew, an American war veteran who had traveled to Nepal in search of peace after decades of inner turmoil. He sat for hours every day in meditation. Yet he remained restless, frustrated that his transformation hadn't arrived. One evening, he broke down in tears before a senior monk. "I've done everything right. Why do I still feel lost?" he asked. The monk smiled and replied, "The seed does not bloom because you yell at it. It blooms when the sun, the soil, and the season are in harmony. You are the seed. Your season will come." That moment changed him. He let go of urgency. And slowly, over months, his anxiety began to dissolve. Not because he meditated harder, but because he stopped trying to outrun his own becoming. What if your timing is divine, even when it doesn't feel that way? This affirmation, "I trust the timing of my life," is a reminder that delay does not mean denial. It's about shifting from a mindset of, "Why is it taking so long?" to, "What is this moment preparing me for?" Sometimes, the universe is not withholding something from you. It's preparing you to receive it with maturity, depth, and clarity. Let's think about one of the most iconic examples of divine timing, Nelson Mandela. Mandela spent 27 years in prison. 27 years. Many would have lost faith, grown bitter, or given up hope, but not Mandela. He used those years to study, reflect, and cultivate a vision so powerful that when the gates finally opened, he walked out not with vengeance, but with peace. His leadership wasn't delayed, it was being forged. That's the power of trusting the timing of your life. And here's what's dangerous about not trusting timing. You start rushing. Rushing leads to poor choices. Poor choices lead to suffering. We see this in relationships all the time. People rush into unions out of fear of being alone, only to realize they settled for someone who didn't align with their soul. We see it in careers. People abandoning their purpose for quick money, only to burn out later. But when you trust the timing, you learn to say, "Not yet" doesn't mean never. You shift from control to curiosity. You ask, "What am I being invited to learn in this delay?" And often, you'll discover that the delay is the lesson. Let's make it practical. Each morning, when you recite this affirmation, try this short practice. Close your eyes. Bring to mind one area of your life where you feel impatience, love, work, health. Breathe into that area. Then whisper, "I trust the timing of my life. I trust the unseen forces working on my behalf." Feel that? It's the tension softening, the clinging loosening, the peace returning. Another powerful example is J.K. Rowling. Before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon, she was a struggling single mother on welfare, rejected by dozens of publishers. Had she given up, or forced something before it was ready, the world would have never known her stories. She trusted the timing. She allowed the story to grow into what it was meant to become. So many of us live in fear that we are behind. Behind our peers. Behind our dreams. Behind some invisible timeline of success. But here's the truth. There is no such thing as behind. You are exactly where you are supposed to be for the next part of your unfolding. Your delays are not dead ends. They are detours toward deeper alignment. When you embrace this, you begin to live differently. You stop competing. You stop comparing. You start aligning. You start blooming in your own season. I trust the timing of my life becomes your mantra, your anchor, your shield against self-doubt. Let me offer you this. Every moment you are in is a doorway. You don't have to break it down. You just have to arrive with presence. So the next time your plans are delayed, your goals feel distant, or life seems to say, not yet. Remember this. You are not waiting. You are becoming. You are not behind. You are in rhythm. You are not forgotten. You are being prepared. Say it with me now. I trust the timing of my life. Again, slowly. Breathe it in. Let it settle into your bones. Because when you do, life stops being a race and becomes a sacred dance. I release what no longer serves me. There is a moment in every spiritual journey when you realize that the heaviest burdens you carry are not on your back, they're in your mind. And more often than not, you are the one choosing to carry them. That is why this affirmation, I release what no longer serves me, is not just a phrase. It is a spiritual sword, a release valve, a turning point. Let's start with what this affirmation actually means. I release. It implies letting go, a conscious act, a choice. What no longer serves me. That includes toxic beliefs, old versions of yourself, worn-out identities, relationships steeped in fear, habits rooted in avoidance, dreams that no longer feel aligned. In Buddhism, this is deeply connected to the concept of attachment. The Buddha taught that all suffering arises from clinging to things that are impermanent, clinging to ideas that are not reality, clinging to a self that is constantly changing. To say, I release what no longer serves me, is to begin the work of unclinging. But let me be clear. Letting go is not giving up. Letting go is a courageous act. It takes strength to walk away from a version of yourself that you've outgrown. It takes honesty to admit that what once helped you survive is now holding you back from thriving. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman in Thailand, once a devout nun in a Buddhist monastery. She entered monastic life to escape the trauma of her childhood. For decades, she followed every rule, every ritual, with discipline and devotion. But slowly, she began to feel restless. Not because Buddhism failed her, but because she was clinging to the role of nun to avoid confronting her pain. One night, after deep meditation, she whispered to herself, I release what no longer serves me. She left the monastery, not to abandon her path, but to deepen it in the world. She became a trauma counselor using mindfulness to heal others. Her robe had been her shield, but it had also become her hiding place. Releasing it allowed her to serve more truthfully. What's your version of the robe? Maybe it's the relationship you're too afraid to end. Maybe it's the job that drains your spirit. Maybe it's the belief that you're not good enough unless you're achieving something. Here's the truth. Not everything you carry was meant to go with you into the next chapter. And that's okay. When you speak the words, "I release what no longer serves me," you're not discarding everything. You're discerning. You're saying, "I will not be loyal to my suffering just because I'm familiar with it." Let's make it practical. Write down what you're holding on to. Be brutally honest. Resentments, self-judgments, outdated dreams. Ask yourself, does this belief, habit, or relationship still align with who I am becoming? Then close your eyes. Hold your breath for a moment. And as you exhale, imagine that thing leaving your body like mist rising from your skin. It doesn't have to happen all at once. Release is a process. Even trees let go of their leaves slowly. Let me share a metaphor from Zen. A student clutches a hot coal in her hand and says, "Why does it hurt so much?" The master replies, "Because you will not let go." So simple, so devastatingly true. Your coal might be guilt, or the need for approval, or a vision of success that belongs to someone else. You think holding it keeps you safe, but really, it keeps you burned. The world's most powerful people understand the art of release. Take Oprah Winfrey. At the height of her career, she ended her iconic talk show, not because it was failing, but because she had outgrown it. She released it to birth something new: OWN Network, Super Soul Sundays, and Deeper Conversations. That's conscious release. Or consider Steve Jobs. When he was fired from Apple, the very company he built, he said it was the best thing that ever happened to him. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again. He said, he let go of status and started fresh. The result? The iPod, iPhone, and iPad all came after that release. You see, when you release what no longer serves you, you're not losing, you're making room. Room for breath. Room for clarity. Room for the next right thing. Say it with me now. I release what no longer serves me. Again, slower this time. Feel the weight lift off your shoulders. This is how you create space in your life, not by doing more, but by carrying less. So the next time you feel stuck, overwhelmed, or restless, don't ask what you need to fix. Ask what you need to release. Freedom begins the moment you stop gripping the old story. I radiate peace in all situations. Now, close your eyes gently. Take a slow, deliberate breath in, and breathe out. Feel your body. Feel the space around your body. And say to yourself, I radiate peace in all situations. Let it linger, not just as words, but as energy. Because peace isn't something we chase, it's something we become. And when you become peace, you radiate it, even in chaos, even in uncertainty, even when the world offers you every excuse to lose your center. This final affirmation isn't about being calm when life is easy. It's about becoming the calm when life is not. When we say, I radiate peace in all situations, we're not making a promise that we'll never feel anger, fear, or grief. We're making a commitment to return to our center, no matter how far we've been pulled from it. That's the real power of inner peace. It's not fragile. It doesn't crumble when someone cuts you off in traffic. It doesn't vanish in the face of disagreement. It stands. It breathes. It allows. Consider the Dalai Lama. This is a man who lost his country, his temple, his people, to invasion and exile. And yet, when you see him speak, when you hear him laugh, it's as if nothing could shake the stillness at his core. He doesn't speak of peace. He is peace. This is not denial. It's discipline. It's not passive. It's practiced. And you can cultivate the same. Here's a story. A Vietnamese monk named Tam had lived through war, poverty, and political persecution. One day, during a protest, he was arrested and violently interrogated. Instead of shouting or resisting, he closed his eyes and began reciting the Metta Sutta, the Buddha's words on loving kindness. Even as blows fell upon his back, his voice remained steady. Later, one of the guards who witnessed this came to him privately, tears in his eyes. "I don't know what you are," he whispered, "but I want to learn it." That is the ripple of peace. It doesn't need to argue. It doesn't need to convert. It simply shines. When you radiate peace, people feel it, even when they don't understand it, even when they resist it. They're drawn to it, because deep down, everyone is seeking refuge from their own storms. Let's be honest. In today's world, of constant news, anger, blame, and division, it's easy to become reactive. It's tempting to match chaos with chaos, noise with noise. But what if you chose stillness? What if you became the quiet in the room? When you say, "I radiate peace in all situations," you are taking responsibility for your energy. You're saying, "No matter what's happening around me, I get to choose what I bring into the space." And that choice can change everything. When a family member lashes out, peace responds, not with silence that avoids, but with presence that listens. When your plans fall apart, peace doesn't panic, it breathes. It adjusts. It trusts. When the mind screams, "React," peace whispers, "Return." You radiate peace not by suppressing your emotions, but by becoming the container that holds them with love. Not by avoiding conflict, but by refusing to bring more fuel to the fire. You radiate peace when you move slowly in a rushed world, when you speak gently in a harsh world, when you stay grounded in a world that tries to pull you in every direction. And the beauty is, peace spreads. When you embody peace, your children feel safer, your colleagues feel seen, your community softens. One smile, one pause, one compassionate response can begin to shift an entire room. I've seen this in my own life. There was a period I was facing burnout, betrayal, and deep loss, all at once. Every instinct told me to collapse, to lash out, to retreat. But instead, I sat, I breathed, I said, "Let this be my practice." And slowly, peace found its way back into my spine, my voice, my eyes. People noticed. They didn't say, "You look calm." They said, "You feel different." And that's the truth of radiating peace. It's felt before it's spoken. So how do we practice? Begin with the breath. Let it become your anchor. Set the intention daily. Perhaps writing this affirmation on a mirror or phone wallpaper. I radiate peace in all situations. When conflict arises, pause before reacting. Ask, is my response creating more peace or more pain? Ground your body. Feel your feet, your breath, your heartbeat. Practice loving kindness meditations. Imagine radiating peace from your chest outward to your loved ones, your enemies, your community, the entire planet. Because peace is not an idea, it is an energy field. And you are a transmitter. Let's say it again. I radiate peace in all situations. Let it become your signature. Let it guide your relationships, your work, your rest. Let it shine through your eyes. You don't need the world to be calm before you choose peace. You just need to remember, you are the calm. You are the still lake beneath the storm. You are the sky that holds every weather pattern. This final affirmation is not the end of your practice. It is the beginning of your presence. As you carry it into your day, into your conversations, into your moments of doubt, remember, you are not here to win every argument. You are here to be a sanctuary, a temple in motion, a mirror of the peace the world is starving for. Breathe it, live it, radiate it. The journey of awakening. You began this journey, perhaps out of curiosity, perhaps in search of clarity, perhaps quietly yearning for something deeper than the chaos that modern life offers. You've now walked through 9 powerful affirmations, each one not merely a phrase, but a doorway, a bridge between who you've been and who you are becoming. Let's take a breath together. Inhale, exhale. Let's reflect not with pressure, but with presence, because this is not the end of a video. It is the beginning of a new relationship with yourself, with the real you, the you behind the noise, the one who is grateful in the face of uncertainty, the one who welcomes impermanence, not with fear, but with fluidity, the one who cultivates compassion, not because the world is soft, but because it's harsh, and someone must remain kind, the one who walks with wisdom, not to appear intelligent, but to see clearly, the one who is at peace with themselves, and no longer defined by outer conflict or inner shame, the one who radiates peace in all situations, not to control, but to simply be. And now, with one more sacred breath, I invite you to consider something deeper than the affirmations. Consider the reason why you even sought this path. Was it because you felt tired of reacting? Was it because the world felt too loud and your spirit too quiet? Was it because, somewhere in your soul, you've always known, there's a better way to be human? A wiser way, a softer way, a more awake way? My dear friend, you are not alone. Millions around the world are waking up, not with alarm clocks, but with soul bells ringing inside them, ringing reminders that peace is not a fantasy, but a practice, that wisdom is not found in books alone, but in breath, in silence, in mindful presence, that compassion is not a weakness, but the most powerful force in a divided world. You've now been given the blueprint. These 9 affirmations, this gentle Buddhist invocation each morning, is a compass. Not to escape life, but to engage life more fully. To show up, not as a half version of yourself, but whole, grounded, loving. And this is where the journey becomes yours. You do not need perfection. You do not need to recite flawlessly every day. Some mornings, your voice will shake. Some mornings, your mind will wander. Some mornings, you'll forget. But every morning, you are invited again to begin anew. Because in Buddhism, each sunrise is a rebirth. Each breath is a new lifetime. You can choose again, and again, and again, until these 9 affirmations are no longer things you say. They are who you are. Let me share one last story before we close. There was an old monk in Korea named Sunam. For decades, he swept the same stone path at dawn, each day, regardless of weather. One morning, a young student asked, "Master, why sweep the same path every day if it will only get dirty again?" Sunam smiled gently and replied, "I do not sweep to clean the path. I sweep to clean the mind that walks it." And so too with these affirmations. You may repeat them each day, not because life demands perfection, but because your spirit deserves purification. Not because the words are magic, but because you are. These words are not tools for escape. They are tools for embodiment. You are not trying to be someone else. You are remembering the self you've always been beneath the dust. So as you leave this video, pause before you scroll. Place your hand on your heart. Feel it beating. Feel it thanking you. Feel it rising. Repeat silently, "I remember who I am." And let that remembering guide your steps. Let that remembering choose your words. Let that remembering shape your destiny. Because a person who affirms gratitude, impermanence, compassion, wisdom, and peace daily is not ordinary. They are a walking temple, a breathing prayer, a living embodiment of Buddhism in every moment. May you walk gently. May you speak truthfully. May you love freely. And may you rise, every single day, into the miracle of your own awakening. Now go, and be the light you were born to shine.